Hey everybody.
IronTrap. What were we calling this again? Someone did comment or send us a message. Call it the haggle, which I actually kind of like.
That is pretty good. The haggle, shooting the breeze.
Mike and Matt just talking.
Yeah. Iron Trap podcast, whatever it is. It's us BSing. And we decided recently, we've had some pretty good feedback in person from people that there's a select number of people, not as many as watch our channel, that are interested in a podcasting, and they seem to like what we're talking about, what we're doing, and so forth. So we've decided we're going to start doing podcasts. We're going to try to do podcasts weekly.
Yes, every Sunday, and that is a very large try because with our hectic schedule, sometimes it's tough to sit down and talk for an hour because we're running around like maniacs all the time.
So we're going to start doing some of our podcasts really lend themselves to video better because there's a lot of things to reference that are that Mike can drop video in. Then we have a lot of ones that are just kind of discussions or shooting the breeze, and it's just us talking and might lend itself better to just an audio format. So make sure you're subscribed to both our YouTube, which most people listening to this probably are because that's how you found us, and also on audio formats, no matter how you listen. So we're going to try and start doing more of these. We noticed that there isn't, much like when we started doing our YouTube channel, there isn't a ton of automotive podcasts. There's a handful, but specifically with the niche of what we do with the hunting for old parts and buying and selling and building old hot rods and customs and that kind of stuff. There's some channels doing, industry, some of the bigger guys doing a podcast on the industry as a whole, and they get some really large guests in. Ours is more of just like our channel, the average guy kind of mindset.
Grassroots.
Yeah.
Lack of a better term.
Yeah. So Mike's less long-winded than me. So
yes. Grassroots.
That's it. So this is our first one doing an audio-only podcast. And if you guys like it, definitely let us know and make sure you subscribe. So,
also start leaving reviews on Spotify or Apple, however you listen, because it helps us get more viewers.
Yeah, leave a review. Tell us that our voices are pleasant and that
or bad, whichever. If this doesn't sound that good, please let us know so we can make some changes.
Yeah, we're trying to work with technology.
Yes.
We're super good at that.
I do not specialize as an audio engineer.
So today's one of our. So a lot of times when we're trying to figure out topics, a lot of these topics for podcasts come from going to shows and swap meets and people that stop by the shop and just some of our friends and us BSing around the shop. And one of the ones that came up recently at Wheels of Time, we just got back from that weekend event, and just some customers stopping by and different things, and a car that we recently got. Is this going to be out before?
Yeah, this will be out in 2 weeks, so the videos have been out.
Yeah, so you've probably already seen the video of the 61 Plymouth Sport Suburban wagon that we pulled out of a old garage not far from us, about an hour from here. And it is totally a left field car from what we normally show on the channel. And people were like, why? We had a bunch of people like, why would you do that? That's totally different than the channel. A lot of people are excited about it, and that's a good example. So kind of our discussion today is how the channel, and also kind of following that, how the business has evolved. But really the channel, because we weren't as much a business minded when this first started. It was, I guess that's the first way to say it. It evolved the channel, and we went into it a little bit on how IronTrap got started. But
this is more focused at the video set. And if you followed us for, a very long time, you've seen us do some of these weird left field plays that sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, and that's kind of what dictates our what we decide to film, what we don't decide to film, and. Yeah, I mean, at the beginning, Matt was very hard line in the sand of what we were going to film from the very beginning.
Yeah, our channel kind of started out of Mike just noticing that the garage I bought was cool looking, but number two, out of frustration. I was working for Eastwood, when we started the channel, and we had a director or a boss that got hired from the Home Shopping Network into a automotive company. And I don't know how he bullshitted his way into the door. And I don't care who I offend. The guy was a fucking clown. And he was a fucking clown. So that guy came in and tried to run the company into the ground. He was a fucking idiot. After like 2 years, he was like bankrupting the company.
Is that the one that started doing all the lives?
Yeah. So that guy came in. He knew nothing about cars. He worked for a home shopping network where he had like 1,000 assistants.
It's very similar to QVC, right?
Or maybe it was QVC actually. Are they in Westchester?
I have no idea.
Maybe it was QVC. Somebody will correct me, but they're based out of Westchester, I think, or outside Philly. Maybe it was QVC. I might even be messing it up. So sorry to Home Shopping Network.
He doesn't work there anymore, regardless, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So he got fired from there apparently, but he was an idiot. So he came into the company, and it was very obvious that he was one of those guys that just was an ideas man. He didn't really actually execute anything. He just came up and ran ideas and would force people to do them. And he didn't actually have any, like, he didn't get his hands dirty, so to speak, even in office talk. So he came into the company, bullshitted his way in, and immediately insisted that we were like QVC, and we started doing lives every day. So my job changed from shooting how-to content, and I was doing the social media marketing, but it changed to, okay, we're going to do this project car, and we're going to work on it once a week and put out videos, and the formula that I kind of helped create at Eastwood that really helped the company with social media. Nope, we're done doing that. We're only going to do live videos every day, 1 hour. We're going to have a mediator on the side. We're going to have a camera guy. It's going to be like a live morning show / QVC feel.
100% what it was, and they were so awkward.
It was terrible. And
you were the only reason I watched them, because you would do the most ridiculous shit.
Yeah, so when I worked there, I got very, very frustrated. Like a lot of people, what was frustrating is I went from a job that I loved, and I was very happy at Eastwood. It was very much a small company feel, and everything was really, it was just a lot more fun. And then we started doing that, and it was like, I don't care what you want to. I think, in fact, I had a conversation with the guy. He was one of those guys who's like, I don't care what you want to do. I'm your boss, and you shoot these lives every day. And there's no, if you don't like it, you can hit the door. Well, that guy tried to have me fired multiple times, but because I am who I am, I have some abilities and whatever, they somehow didn't fire me. So shout out to my old boss, Nick, because I think he saved my ass multiple times from getting fired.
I've had many text message exchanges with Matt. I think I'm getting fired today.
Yeah. So this dude started making us do these lives, and it was totally not how-to content, like the stuff that I enjoyed doing. It was like, you're going to take this new body saw that's a piece of shit, and you're going to somehow tell people it's great, and you're going to cut 3 pieces of metal, and then you're going to bullshit about it for 40 minutes.
Yep.
And I'm like, that was another thing that I was really hard and fast about when I worked at Eastwood. I wouldn't really, they did force me a handful of times. For the most part, if you walk back, I would not promote tools that I didn't believe in.
Which we still do to this day.
Yes. So you'll notice over the years, there was another camera guy that started being an on-camera personality because he was okay with shooting videos on whatever, and they started using the other camera guys and other people in the company to shoot videos on these BS products that I didn't believe in.
Sell.
Which is fine. I mean, there's a place for that.
Yes.
The thing I always argued with these guys is I go to car shows, I go to swap meets. I started to become the face of Eastwood.
What's insane is you still are.
Yeah.
We get messages all the time about Eastwood products, how they work. We get troubleshooting messages all the time. It is wild.
I don't mind it. It's just that it was tough for me because if I promoted some BS product and then a guy saw me at a show on my own personal time on a Saturday morning at 6 a.m. at a swap meet, he's cussing me out because this saw that I said was great was crap. So anyways, going left field here, but so that guy basically forced us to do that. And it was during that time I was so frustrated because we couldn't do any how-to content. Mm-hmm. I think my Model A Coupe was pushed in the corner of the building.
Because right around that time, they stopped letting you do work in the building, too, because of the fire code, right?
Yeah, well, we had a fire. There was a fire in the warehouse.
That's right.
And I think I actually had just built the chassis table. And I think it was that dude's first day. Tell me that isn't bad mojo.
Oh.
He started, and I think it was his second day we had the fire or something. And I'd just gotten done building my chassis table, which we still have. The video did phenomenal on Eastwood's channel.
And all of his early build series on that Model A, those videos have like 1 million views or
Yeah, a lot of those. And
half a million views.
And that's what was so frustrating for me when I was working at the company. And during those times, I can't say the whole time I was at the company, I had proved myself with some of my ideas that I forced doing the pile house pickup truck.
Yep.
My skills weren't there, but the ideas were there, and that's what launched, hey, we should probably start doing project car videos. People like to watch this.
100%.
And the Model A was the same way. It's like I did the chassis table, and it did well. Then I did channeling the car, and it like did phenomenal. And it's like that guy was fighting it, didn't want us to do that stuff. So we were like, okay, well, if he doesn't like that, then we're going to start shooting. Mike kind of came to the shop and was like, this place is awesome. We should start shooting a YouTube channel. And that's how it started.
Yep.
And
Well, I was pushing at your old place, but it was a very small 2-car garage. We would have been terrible to film at.
it would have been like everybody else's channel when they first started.
Yeah.
It's like it would just been, I don't think we would have done as well.
No, and when we started the channel, we talked about there's a very, because of the Eastwood stuff, we noticed there's a niche of hot rod stuff that was not being covered.
Yep.
There were some people that were doing street roddy stuff and a little bit of hot rodding stuff, but the how-tos there was non-existent. There was very, very little out there.
Yeah, and I've referenced it before, but what Piero was doing with Mad Fabricators, I really admired. But he was doing, it was like a mix
It was
of
more culture.
and I loved it, but we didn't have the ability to do that.
Yeah.
Being in Pennsylvania, it wasn't as easy to go and do this stuff. And he just had the connections to have really, we weren't going to get Barris to come sit down with us. So
No, not at all.
the how-to content was what I wanted to do. When we started, it was like I had this outlet or this, I wanted to work on this stuff, but we weren't allowed to document it, and had this creative energy, so to speak, and we wanted to show it. So it was like, we're going to do this. We're also going to super detailed, which I wasn't able to do all the time at Eastwood, just because they were trying to sell tools, not speaking negative about how they were editing the videos. It was more, hey guys, we need to sell tools, so that 30-minute side tangent about how you made that pattern isn't relevant. And I get it. But we were trying to do that. Well, I found out on that I don't want to say wrong, but they were kind of right with the way because we now do that. Like if it gets too nerdy, we glaze over it because
we've definitely found when we do an insanely technical video, the views do much worse because there's a lot less people that are in it for the technical aspect as they are just for the overall video.
Yes. They want to see something happen. Maybe they want to learn one or two easy to learn things, and then they want to see how cool it looks.
Yeah, they're not watching our video for metallurgy of how metal moves and the scientific process of everything.
And I've noticed there's some super talented metal shapers and fabricators that have started channels over the years, and they don't do really well because they are so into that there's so few people that want to watch it. But 100%. You watch like Laze did really well on YouTube for many years, even before we started channel. A lot of what was so popular on his was because he was showing basics with a bead roller. Like it wasn't that he was showing how to build a quarter panel. A lot of his videos that were popular were like, and I watched them. That was the stuff I wanted to learn. How do you do XYZ on a bead roller? And he showed it. So like, we found that out. But in the beginning, it was like, no, I want to show hardcore detail. Here's how we made this little tiny piece to replace this.
And it was the other thing that changed too, which is funny, is our first, year or two of videos, it was a hard line. The project had to be finished at the end of the video. Oh. Dude, there was so many nights I worked night shift at that time. So on my days off, we'd film on, it was like Tuesdays, and the video would come out usually on a Friday. And at that point, we're 7 years later and we're still in the same boat. We're filming and then putting the video out days later. But there's so many times I sat in the shop till like 2 a.m. on a stool watching Matt not struggle, but like try to figure out how to build this part and then weld it in. And it had the project had to be finished. So there's many videos on the Sweetheart Roadster. We started at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon and we didn't get done till 2 in the morning because we started cutting stuff apart. And it's like, oh, I also have to make these 5 other brackets to hold this other bracket in that we were originally going to start with.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was something, again, with me working at Eastwood, I wanted to show this monumental thing done each time, and that's kind of how we shot the videos at Eastwood. But also at Eastwood, I would take 3 days or a week to do it.
Yeah.
And then the editing guy, the video guys, they would then spend a week or days on a video, and it was no big deal because that was their job.
Yeah.
You know, where you were like moonlighting doing
exactly.
that. So it was very difficult. And then we also started to realize that people don't seem to care that much. Like if you get to a good
stopping point, yeah.
If we would have just gotten the video to where the pieces were tacked, it looked the same as if I finish welded it and spent another 3 hours on it.
Or if they were just made like,
Yeah.
hey, you know, this video, we really were just going to do this, but instead we had to rebuild half this side of the car to do this little project. It's just people like seeing the process,
Yes.
let alone the whole overall picture.
Yeah, and I think that's when we started to realize, with the evolution of the channel, I started to realize that we were seeing that people like, and that was a part of some of the stuff that was successful at Eastwood, I think. People like the storyline of seeing a build. So like they were subscribed to see the Roadster get built from day one to done, and still not done.
I was going to say, they're still waiting.
We're hooking you in.
It's that long. We're playing long game.
Yeah, we're playing a long game here, so we keep those subscribers from day one. But like some of that, we figured out that people don't necessarily care that you got that little project done as much as they're kind of just want to see progress on the car. And in my brain, it started to shift where I was like, this is a lot like the forums days.
Yeah.
And I was huge on the forums. I've talked about that before. When I did the Volkswagen stuff, I was huge on forums. Any forums I was reading, but I posted a lot when I was younger and did Volkswagen stuff. So it was like, wait, it's the same thing. Like, you just document like a diary of what you got done in this work session or, you know, couple of work sessions. So as long as you get something accomplished, whether it's like Mike said, making the part, or it's fully welded in, however it flows, that's what you get done. And that we still keep to this day. I just kind of go with the flow, and if you know,
I mean, the perfect example is a video that came out 2 weeks ago, the windshield.
Oh, yeah.
We broke the glass on the windshield, and we're currently still waiting for glass because the glass shop is...
They broke a piece of glass trying to cut the windshield.
In the previous days, we would have just not put the video out and waited till we had a piece of glass to put in it. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really change that much of the video because the main focus was chopping the windshield and the posts. On the video, I mean, you could tell it doesn't have glass in it, but at the end,
the same,
it doesn't add that much visual appeal at the end of the day.
Yeah, so that, and we can kind of, and that's the stuff where now we can kind of breeze through that. And the next video, when we start it, we'll reference, hey, the windshield's in, the glass is in, and or maybe we won't because I might not have the glass yet. But
we've also, the videos have become more like vlog-like instead of like hardline how-to instructional videos. They're more of a vlog of us working on that part of the project.
Hey guys, it's Matt Clausen, your host of the All Automotive Podcast. I've been in the automotive industry for over 30 years. I've owned my own repair shop for the last 15 years. I was going to write a book, but I started this podcast instead. So come join me for my take on vehicle extended service contracts or what to look for when purchasing a used vehicle. Like and subscribe to the All Automotive Podcast. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening now.
Yeah, and I think that with the evolution again, I noticed one thing I was uncomfortable with when I worked at Eastwood is they tried to, and I get it, they were a company, tried to portray us as experts, which a company wants to do. I was very uncomfortable with that because I'm not an expert.
I'm going to watch a couple old videos and all. There's got to be a screenshot somewhere of you with like...
The metal expert or something. Yeah, and it's like, I used to yell at them and make them change it. Like, just put hobbyist or whatever. Like, and they were making me kind of present like I was. And I'm sure there's people in the industry that were much, that were established that used to talk crap on that and me. But it was a situation I was forced into. And yes, I was trying to show, and much like we do now, share how I would learn to do something, but I wasn't claiming to be an expert. And that was always an awkward situation where you have to, and I feel like when you do videos that are how-to content like that, and that's become the norm with new channels,
Yep.
is they want to shoot stuff like they're really quick to become an expert. And I don't want to be an expert, because usually when you're expert, you're on your way out, you're on your deathbed, because that's when you fully have
You've
reached
done everything, yeah.
Yeah, or maybe not your deathbed, but like much later in life, you're at a point where you've done your peak performance and you've learned most of what you're going to learn. So like that was one thing in the beginning. We were trying to do how-to content, and this is how you do it. And I'm like, I really am not.
And plus, this hobby in general, there's no correct how-to on how to do everything.
No, yeah, overall, yeah.
Yeah, this is how we did it, but it's not the correct how-to. You could do it this way or that way. It's a very broad topic, and the how-to kind of makes it seem like this is the only way. This is how you have to do it.
Yeah, so I started kind of, even when I was at Eastwood, I started trying to get more loose with that, where it's like, this is just the way I kind of do it.
Yep.
It's a jump-off point for you. I still say that. Like, hopefully it gives you some ideas to do it better yourself. And that's the way we go now, where it's like, and that's where the vlog thing is much nicer. And we started leaning into showing our mess-ups, because that was another thing early on. We're like, oh, no, we're going to show how it's done, and you don't really show that you made that part 3 times or whatever.
I was bitched at many times in the early videos, like, why did you show that? Like, I didn't realize you didn't want me to show. You're like, no, I messed up. That you can't put that in videos.
Yeah, and that's where I came from, the Eastwood side of things, where you were trying to show it goes right every time. Here's the whole way it goes, and you don't mess up, or it's not, or we used to film stuff in a certain way because something wasn't exactly how I liked it, and then so now it's more like, let's just show the mess up and just say, I got to cut it apart and redo it, or the windshield broke, and it is what it is. So the vlog style builds, again, back to the forum days where you're more doing a diary.
Yep.
It's like, this is what I did. This part didn't work out as planned. Whatever. And that's just part of the process. And I think people relate to that more because that's real life. That's what everybody building a car goes through. It's just that we've been trained over the years with some of the TV shows that doesn't really happen.
Yeah, like horsepower. We were talking about it earlier, or the other day. You do like horsepower TV. We're going to do this engine swap, and then talk about a few things, and then there's an infomercial about the parts they're using, and then you turn around and it's done. It's like, how did that possibly work? Hi, Moondog.
What's up, Moon? Hi, buddy.
He's like, oh.
No treats in here.
Oh, boy.
So that's also what's changed at our channel. We have a dog that bothers us that wants some of my coffee. That's enough coffee.
Yeah. That's ASMR of Moon panting into the mic.
Okay, lay down. Go lay down. Go bother somebody else. Or stand there awkwardly.
So what do you think was our first attempt at like a left field content? I kind of think I know, but probably the trip videos was our first like.
Yeah, and again, I'm gonna say it a million times. Piero's content. Thank you, man. Piero's content and Mad Fabricators. That was the part of that like inspired that for sure. Part of it. Also, I'm an old BMX and skateboard kid, so like being a BMX kid, Road Fools. If anybody, we have old BMX guys that are watching or gals or listening. Road Fools was literally. I mean, that stuff was out in the 90s and early 2000s and on. That video was just like, they got like 5 pros together. They got in a car and they road tripped all around the country and went street riding and skate parks. And they documented all the fun stuff that happens along the way. And those were like some of the most fun videos. Had good music in it. It was just like, they were such cool videos. And they would put a cast of characters together in it. So like for us, it was the same idea. I saw Mad Fabricators. They were doing a similar thing. And I think Pierre's referenced that he was watching old skateboarding videos, and that kind of was the punk rock feel he was going for. So we were kind of like, well, in our little way, maybe we can do like the fun of going on a road trip. We visit a swap meet, and then we hit some guy that has a collection. We go picking, and boo, boo, boo. And that's the trip. And yeah, I think we did.
Was Virginia with Jason Moss our first one?
That might have been one of the first ones we did, yeah, because it was.
Oh, no, we did a couple in Rhinebeck.
Oh, the first one was we went and did one with Quint.
Oh, that's right, up to Massachusetts when we got all those flatheads for free. And
yeah, so we So I've been doing this stuff forever. I mean, I've talked about in other videos. In the German car days, I was going to Europe and road tripping around. So, like, this isn't like we just decided, hey, road trips are cool. I've literally been road tripping since I was riding BMX and skateboarding as a kid. As soon as I got a driver's license, we were road tripping, and that was the stuff we were doing. And I wish I had a camera back then.
Dude, you've lived 3 very totally different lives.
Yes, I've lived some crazy lives and doing some crazy stuff. And even in the, I think they call it mid-school BMX days, like, I was huge into that. And we were road tripping around and doing all that stuff ourselves. It was a really neat, fun time. So we've been doing it. I had the same mindset from when I was doing it with BMX, and I had like $5 in my name, to doing it in Europe
with $20 to your name.
$25 after flights, and then doing it now. So, and I was kind of doing it already with the American car, the hot rod stuff when I got real heavy into it. I just wasn't documenting.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing at nights and weekends, not at Eastwood. So, yeah, I think we were like, maybe we should like document a thing and go on a swap meet. We had a lead.
Yep.
It was like one of our first leads.
What lead did we go up there? I'm trying to remember.
We visited Doug in Virginia.
Oh, yeah, that trip. I was thinking up in Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. So Massachusetts, there's a dude named Clint that is a Volkswagen, guy. And when I was really into the water cooled Volkswagens and all that stuff in the forums days, he was a little dipshit kid.
He was like a little kid. He was like 12 or 13.
Yeah, and he's just a dipshit adult.
I'm gonna clip this and send it to him.
Yeah. So anyways, he kind of connected with me after Hot Rod, when I was into Hot Rods, and said, hey, man, I love what you're doing. Blah, blah. We kept in contact and became friends. So then him seeing me doing all the hot rodding thing, he's like, oh, I go to all these junkyards in my area. I know where there's a bunch of old stuff.
Oh, that's right. That's how we got
And we were kind of like, he found a junkyard that had some old stuff in the back, and the owner said, yeah, you guys can buy that stuff. So we just kind of, that was one of those trips. We had really nothing planned. It was just a couple things he said, and we were going to do the, freestyling, like they.
I was trying to think of the term that American Pickers used, and that was 100%, because one junkyard led us to he took us to 2 junkyards, and we talked to one of the junkyard owners, and then that led us to the Pieces, which is that like.
Yeah, well, we went with Quint. He took us to the one place. We did buy a handful of things.
We bought some Divco parts there.
Yeah, and it was kind of like, okay, that was cool, but now we had like a whole nother day of.
Yeah.
What were we going to do? So we started driving around, and we drove by a junkyard, and he pointed out like
there was like an international pickup truck in the weeds out front, right?
No, he drove by the one yard, and he said, "Oh, that guy's a dick. He, a new owner.
That's right.
And he won't let me in." But I stopped there a couple times, and the guys, won't let you in and buy anything. And he was just like ranting and raving. There was a guy standing outside, and he's like, "Oh, there's that guy. He's a dick." So I'm like, just stop the car. So he stopped. We got out. I walked up and started talking to the guy, and Clint like stayed in the car. And I started just asking about flathead stuff. And the dude's like attitude changed, because I think Clint was asking about German car stuff. So the guy was like, "Get out of here, kid." He probably showed up in some like slammed Volkswagen and whatever. So I started talking to the guy, and the guy's like, "Oh yeah, cool, yeah, you can come walk around. I got some flatheads if you want them for free." We're like, all right. So we went up there, looked at a bunch of stuff, but we was like end of day, so we couldn't pull any parts. But he gave us like 3 flatheads for free.
2 or 3, yeah.
2 or 3, I can't remember. It was cool, and he was like, Clint was all like, "What the hell? He let you in? Like that guy never let us in."
That was so funny.
He's like, "I can't believe." He's like, couldn't get over that I got in. I'm like, I've been doing this a while. You got to know how to read these guys and talk to them.
Yep.
And he definitely looked like an older American car guy. And anytime you mention flatheads, even if they're not a flathead guy, they usually perks their rears up. Because if you're a flathead guy in the car hobby, you're kind of hardcore because they're a pain in the ass.
Yes.
So, he instantly was like, "Oh, all right." And then they went from there. So then we did that. And then I think we went and stopped it. He said he knew another junkyard, which we went to. The guy didn't really have anything to buy. And then we went to talk to the owner, because Clint, I think, used to work there or something.
Yeah.
And I started talking to that guy, and I'm like, do you know any other guys with collections?
That's the age-old trick. You just start asking questions about old dudes in the area.
Yeah. Who's the go-to guy if you got a question about early Fords or flathead stuff? And blah, blah, blah. I'm talking. He's trying to think. He goes, "Oh, whatever town, a couple towns over, there's Pieces." The guy's like 80 or 90, and he's been buying and selling, old Ford stuff and whatever forever. He's got buildings full of new old stock parts, and he's like, but I don't think he's open much at all anymore. And we haven't checked in on it. He was old when we went there.
Yes,
and he was only open like a day or two a week.
Yes.
And that place was incredible. And
I can't imagine going in there now knowing what we know now. It would have been, we mostly bought advertising there, like old cabinets and stuff that he had sitting around.
Yeah, we didn't buy a ton. We bought parts, but we just, in that place had been picked through.
Oh yeah, heavily.
So the obvious stuff was all gone. And most of the stuff we found that was really good was and that's one of our things, was in the areas that nobody went. So we found an attic area that we didn't really 100% ask. We just kind of went up into.
It was an old sawmill, so it was like 5 floors up, way up in the attic.
So all the way in the top, and I went up in there, and there was a ton of old advertising stuff, and we dug it out. And we went in the basement that was like would flood sometimes, and we found some stuff in there, and we found a bunch of parts. But that like made the trip, and that was like the holy crap! Like that was probably one of the first times I got into a place with that much quantity on our own.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like a friend knew the guy.
Yep.
Or I went to an auction and everybody's there and you're digging through it. It was like we were the only ones. He opened all the doors and he let us dig around for the day. So that was like really cool because it was like you had no idea what you were going to find. Even though we knew that people had been in and picked, there was so much there that you couldn't go through it all. So
not at all.
We got some good steering wheels he had hanging.
Oh yeah, that's right. And some hubcaps too.
Yeah.
Remember you climbed that sketchy ladder because they were hanging from the ceiling?
Oh, yeah. There was some Lions hubcaps I got there. And we got some Banjo wheels. He had this one area that I remember there was just steering wheels hanging overhead.
Yep. Yeah, I remember that
All
now.
different brands. And again, if we knew more, there was probably wheels that we looked past that we didn't know.
There's probably some guys that build customs use a lot.
Yeah, we might have missed some stuff.
This was probably 2017.
It was like when we first started the channel.
Yeah.
I think we started the channel. We'll have to look back at the video.
We started in like January, February of 17.
Yeah, so we worked through the winter on the channel doing how-to content.
Let me look. I can look right now.
And then it was like into the spring, and I think it was that summer. Our first summer we did that video. And I don't want to say that was popular because the channel was so small that like it didn't get that many views.
But it got enough views that we went, maybe we should start shooting these more.
Well, that and it was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, that trip was a blast.
So it was a lot of fun, and I'm like, man, if we could ease up the stress of...
August 18th of 2017.
So it was literally the first summer of us starting the channel.
That video got 17,000 views.
Well, yeah, but I feel like that's because the channel's gotten big and people have gone back and watched.
Actually, we were wrong. Our first adventure video was when we went to Coopersburg.
Oh,
to one of your buddy's place, and
I forgot about Kate was with.
Yeah.
It was an.
We didn't really find anything, but we just went digging.
Went in the woods.
Yeah, digging in the woods behind a house in Coopersburg. There was a bunch of old car stuff, but it was destroyed from sitting in the woods.
That's right. Yeah, I had an old Volkswagen friend who was the mayor. I think he was the mayor of Coopersburg for a little while, and he saw the channel and saw what we were doing. He's like, oh, I know where there's some old stuff if you want to come by. And I think Kate came with, and there was chickens, and I vaguely remember that. And that was like our first test. It was a terrible video. Like, it wasn't.
It was 7 minutes long.
Yeah, it was not very good and not. Yeah. So, but that was us trying to, test it out and do that stuff. And
yeah, definitely.
And I knew from my end at Eastwood, like, there was guys that were working as just video guys, and we shot some like more, I don't want to say documentary type videos, but we shot some videos that were more like lifestyle, type videos.
Yep.
And that was at the point when Etsy did this series where they did a video series that was very short-lived, where they did features on certain like makers that were selling, and they were phenomenal. And there was like one or two of them that like I just like totally changed my outlook, because it was like real documentary like and artsy, and it was the guy talking about his people's outlook on life because they're making knives or whatever. And that artistic side, I was like, man, if we could start doing some of that into our like videos where we do trips.
Yep.
So the early ones were just like, we're just going to walk around and film whatever. But then we started to figure out, like, maybe we do some of that. And Eastwood, we did a couple, but there was a lot of pushback from people in the company. So not a lot of that got to light. But, like, we started doing a little bit of that, and we're like, okay, well, if we spend the extra time when we're there to get the artsy shots.
Yep.
And that's where, like, you getting a drone.
Yep.
And us trying to getting a better camera.
Yeah, adding some production value to the video instead of me just walking around like all of our early adventure videos. I just filmed with a GoPro.
No, you had that little square camera that was like
I don't know if we used that.
We did.
Did we?
Well, in the early how-to videos.
Oh yeah, I'm saying on like our trip videos.
I don't remember.
Like when we went with Clint and some of like Rhinebeck and stuff. It was just shot with a GoPro.
Oh, okay.
Just because we just traveled with it, and we were trying to be we have problems now trying to be as inconspicuous as possible, because someone, especially now when someone sees me walking around with our big camera with the microphone on top, everyone's like, oh look, it's Mike from IronTrap. But if I don't have a camera, I can people notice me way less.
And so and I still feel awkward about filming, even though we do it as a career
Every day.
Yeah, I still feel awkward when we go to events. So yeah, that was the early. We're like, okay, let's that's.
We also started doing auctions too, because we filmed. I was looking on my phone. We went to that Model A auction we filmed, and it did fairly decent. And then you went to that Model A auction in Maryland. We bought like the anvil.
Did we film that?
Yeah, we filmed it.
Oh, okay, I couldn't remember that.
And then that was also like 2017. It was so long ago. And
so we started leaning in pretty hard to
right away. Yeah, but we just didn't do it as often. And then you did that 32 auction in Carlisle, and that was
probably one of the ones that we saw some traction. I was like, wait, and
that was the summer of 2018 or 19. I can't remember.
I want to say it was 18. It was pretty early, but that was one where I was like, and that was totally sporadic. I think I used my phone for the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, while I was there, I was like, wow, this
2018. It was October of 2018.
I was like, wow, this place is pretty cool. Maybe I should film a few clips of my phone. And we kind of just decided to turn it into a video. And luckily, and again, that was stuff that, like, now there's channels that are very successful that all the dudes do is go to auctions and film stuff. Yep. And there's channels do very, very well. Mm-hmm. I just kind of decided that wasn't.
They're, again, super awkward. You run into a risk of someone being in one of the shots that doesn't want to be in it, and then you have potential legal problems, and the auctioneer may not like it, and it's just a whole mess of problems.
Yeah, and I think once you get big with that, you almost have to go to the auctioneer ahead of time, because if you're mid-auction and somebody bitches about it, it's going to be a thing. So some people don't like people knowing what they paid, so if it's documented on camera, so I don't know why. It's weird. But so we did that 32 one, and because there was some early Harley stuff.
Yeah, there was some
knucklehead stuff.
Yeah.
And then there was this 32.5 window to and it was in Carlisle. If you've ever been to the Carlisle swap meet, the sheets, they're right after you come off the turnpike, Turkey Hill.
Yeah.
After you come off the turnpike, there was an old time service station garage right next to the sheets. And that everybody for years, I think, kind of wondered what was in there. Some people said they knew, but there was a 32.5 window in there, among other things. And we went to that auction. I went to that auction on my own.
That had to be the weekend after Carlisle. October 2nd is usually the in-between of Carlisle and Hershey.
It was, because
had to be the Friday and Saturday.
Randy ended up buying it, and I told him about the auction. He didn't even know about the auction. And I was texting with him and said about it, because I didn't have the money to buy the car. And he went and ended up buying it. And I think he ended up taking it to Hershey, maybe. So it was it might have been right before Carlisle. I don't remember. But it was. So it was a 3-day auction, and I bought a ton of good stuff. And then I think we filmed. Didn't we film? I bought the upstairs.
Yeah, that was a separate video. We went 2 weeks later and emptied the entire attic out.
Yes, after Hershey. We went and, so we started seeing traction with that video because it got good views, and it was I was like, holy crap, we didn't have any production value. It was just me standing behind the auctioneer for a few seconds or minutes and then getting some panning shots of the cars and the stuff, and then that was it.
Yeah.
A pretty easy, simple video. So then we're like, my brain started to flip the switch where I'm like, wait, we don't have to try so hard. I was trying to like find this awkward place where like, then I wanted to go full scale, like production value for the videos and documentary style. I'm like, wait, we can kind of blend.
And what we've honestly learned is we can shoot anything, and it may not do amazing, but we've shot some stuff like that auction with our cell phones, and it's done amazing. And then we've put high production value into other things, and it does very poorly. So it's
true.
like we're at this weird spot where we almost have to throw everything at the wall and just whatever sticks. And we've done that a bunch because, like, when you bought the tractor, we're like, oh, we'll do some content on the tractor, and it'll do well. And those videos sucked. They're some of our lowest viewed videos ever.
Yes. Yeah, that's just not. So we found what people. So over the years with the evolution of the channel, we started just trying, and that's a social media thing. You listen to Gary Vee or if any nerds are into the marketing and business side of things, everybody knows Gary Vee. He is big on that. It's like, it's just velocity. You're just putting out a lot of content, and people will tell you what they like you just watch the comments and the views. So I was very much influenced by Gary Vee many years ago when I was still at Eastwood listening to that stuff, and kind of learned, like, who cares? Just put it out, and if it doesn't work, just don't keep doing the wrong thing. Don't force
don't double down on the bad views.
Yeah. Don't double down on doing QVC videos and blowing all the company's money.
Yes.
Because you'll get fired. Fuck you. Fuck that guy.
It's been 40 minutes, Matt. Calm down.
Yeah. Still don't like that guy. Fucking clown. So we started doing some of that and realized it. And then we were like kind of trying to shoot car show videos because I'm like, oh yeah, people like.
And they did super well.
The first handful of times.
Yep.
The one that surprised me is, remember, we split up and you went to the Hooligan show and I went to Jalopy Rama in Maryland, and I shot Jalopy Rama with my cell phone because we only had one camera.
Yep. And
Mike had his stuff, and the cell phone video did like phenomenal.
Did way better. It's also nothing against the Hooligan show, but the quality of vehicles between the two shows is quite different.
Yeah, and I was shooting with my cell phone.
Yeah.
But I was trying to get panning shots, and I'm like, you know what, at least I'll try and get some shots that it sort of looks like there's production value. And that video at that time, did very well. It
hurt my ego. My very frail ego back in the day.
Yeah,
I was like, man, I flew my drone. I got all these crazy shots. Matt just like half-assed it with his cell phone, and it did better. This sucks.
Yeah, so we quickly realized that. But then we started doing more and more show videos, and they were like doing pretty poor.
But again, it's the same. Every show you walk around now, there's someone filming the show.
Yes.
So like, not saying we're innovators, because there's plenty of other people that were doing it before us.
Oh, definitely.
But now there's just so many. Even Carlisle and Hershey.
Oh my God! Every, and that's just social media. It's the world now. If you need it, and there was a funny meme that's been going around where it's like the guys. It's a Seinfeld clip with the two guy of them talking about like, what are we doing with our lives? I don't know if you've seen it yet. But it's like Pierre sent it to me last night. It's like, what are we doing with our lives? We're sitting in the diner, and it says like every business owner realizing that they have to be forced to put social media content every day or something like that.
What are we doing?
What are we doing? What are we doing with our lives?
Yeah.
So that's what, it's like we just got to keep putting content out. Keep doing it. But that's what, now everybody that has a business, there's guys that are in the same world that we're in, and they're like, oh man, if I start a YouTube channel, you just have to do it to stay relevant.
Yep.
Or if you want to grow your business. So we kind of realized that we're going to reel back from that a little bit, and we only film, again, we look at the numbers in the comments. So if we do a video and it's just not doing well, we kind of don't.
And car show videos entail so much work to film, and they just weren't getting the numbers.
Views, yeah. So like we used to shoot, this year was the first year. We have kind of a little verbal agreement with Wheels of Time where we shoot a video and do some content and promote. And we also promote ahead of the show, and we mention the show like right now. But this year we made the decision at the show. I'm like, Mike, why don't we put the Wheels of Time content in the Week in the Life of video, because our Week in the Life of videos are actually doing pretty well. They're gaining traction, and it's going to get more eyeballs on their show than the last time we did the Wheels of Time show on its own. The views were like pretty low.
Yeah.
So we're like, but if we put a smaller condensed version within this other video, more people will see that content. So that's where we're trying to. People don't need a 25-minute video of painting shots of cars. They want to see the 5 coolest cars, and that's it.
And after you film this, this is the same way with every car show. After you do 1 or 2 videos, the amount of new vehicles showing up to that show is minuscule. Every car show's like that. You get the core group of people that always come, and there might be 5 to 10 new cars that you didn't show last year, but you
at
can't.
Local shows.
Yeah.
Now, like Grand National Roadster show.
Oh, that's totally different.
Yeah, that's one of the ones. Or you do like the Detroit Autorama with the Riddler cars. Like,
yes,
every year there's real high-end stuff that comes. So like that, obviously there's going to be new content. But we're still like, I think now we're leaning into the vlog thing. Where even with shows, we're just kind of showing a handful of the cars we like, and maybe we talk about why. So Grand National, it's like, oh, here's the Eddie Dye Roadster. It's one of my favorite roadsters of all time. Here it is. And we focus on that car. Not that other cars are better. We're just showing the couple of cars that.
And even I never really thought about this, but our swap meet videos are very much vlog videos because it's us catching bunnies in our swap meet booth.
Yeah.
Like just talking about what we bought, and it's not just showing the show. It's talking about what we like, what we found, all the neat stuff. It's not just us just walking around and showing the cool, neat things that is mixed in, but it's also us having fun. And we could dive into that more because, I mean, we go out to dinner all the time and act like goofballs off camera.
I think we just don't have the video. We don't have the crew to do it. So, like, even Wheels of Time this weekend, a bunch of us went out and cruised the cars and went to dinner, and the DeLorean car was acting up and idle and all stupid. And
just what you need in your face while you're pissed off about the car is a camera crew sticking a camera in your face.
Yeah, but it's in the end, I'd probably be like, that's kind of funny. Because, like, we were doing that, and I was leading the couple of the cars, and then because my car was idling stupid, I made a wrong turn, and we did a parade through the center of Walmart at 5 p.m.
I'm sure everyone getting their groceries enjoyed it.
Yeah, they really enjoyed that. And but like that kind of stuff. But we try and show it the much as we can. We also dance between the
having a real life.
Yeah, and enjoying the hobby. So that's where we kind of sometimes draw a line, and just that footage doesn't get covered. But the other thing I think that has evolved is we've started to. Oh, like one of the things we were kind of toying with, and I'd love to do it more, but we just don't have the time. We did the 2020 challenge.
Oh, yeah.
And we still have people that come up to us at shows that are like, man, I really like that. I wish you'd do more of that, because I think it was a neat way to show what everybody in the hobby kind of does to afford the hobby.
Yeah.
So it's like buying and selling and flipping and trading and whatever. And that was really fun, but what happened is I decided to flip the switch on the parts business, and it's too muddied. It's hard to really film.
Hi, Moondoggy.
He's like, I need attention now.
Yeah, it's like I sell all of our parts, so it's like I could just not sell Matt's stuff because he doesn't deserve to win the $20 challenge.
So
we joked about doing something like that at a swap meet.
Yeah.
Like, here's $100. Let's see who can buy like the craziest upsell for $100. You buy a $1,000 part for $100, and try and do that. But it's tough to also be shopping for parts, and it's just there's a very hard line to put in the sand where it doesn't blend into each other.
So we did it a little bit, but we kind of got away from it because it was just hard to keep track and also film the footage.
Yeah.
Interrupting everything else we're doing.
I think we should, one of these next trips that we go on, like if we go to the Pacific Northwest next year for that swap meet, I think we should film that swap meet in that sense. Like, here's $100. Let's see who can buy the most expensive thing for $100.
Or you could say the best thing.
Yeah.
Because you might buy something there's not even a value. But
like a Ham's bath mat?
Yes.
Yeah.
That would have been the win.
Yeah, exactly.
That would have been the win.
Or we make it a very cheap challenge and you give $10 and we put it out like who bought the best item for $10 and let the viewers pick.
Yeah, that's true. So we did some of that stuff. It was successful, but it was also that was just a product of the situation at the time. It was 2020.
Well, we didn't know that was going to happen. Or you just mean the year 2020 for the $20. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no. Yeah. But we also, I think we leaned into it because then COVID started.
Yeah.
And we were kind of like, well,
We
there's
got
not
nothing
a lot
to do.
Yeah. There wasn't swap meets. There wasn't
Yeah.
shows. So we were like, okay, well, let's try and do it. You know, it was just another way. I also was working from home for Eastwood. So suddenly it was like, it felt like we were doing the channel more full time
yeah.
because I was home a lot more and whatever. So, but I think we've learned, you know, that blending the how-to content has never stopped. It's just, I think we started to figure out that the storyline of getting a car and then putting it on the road from start to finish was something that people really enjoyed, and that storyline is what we've really leaned into.
Yes, 100%.
Finding the car and showing how we found the car, who had it, the family talking about the history of, you know, why the car sat there for all those years and blah, blah, blah. Everybody knows now we lean into that super hard. I mean, the cars are named after the guy we found it from or the guy who had it on the road last or whatever, and we continue through all that stuff, and it's kind of a fun thing. I've always done that, but I didn't lean into it quite as hard. But now we're really doing that, and I think people seem to like that. So that it's on the how-to content. That's more the focus now for showing the car, and we kind of give you an idea of what we're planning to do with the car, and we follow that theme throughout from you know, barn to road, so to speak, or whatever you want to call it. But that has changed. It's also changed with, we now make money on YouTube. We don't make an insane amount of money, but we do make a considerable amount, enough of money that it changes our decisions by watching what people want to watch. And that's a good example of a tractor video. You know, if that suddenly costs us thousands of dollars because we are not doing.
I mean, and all of the, you know, Matt and I pay attention to the larger YouTubers. They're doing the same exact thing. They're trying a video, and if it doesn't work, they just never do that again, and they do with what makes them the most revenue, but they also get the most eyes on the video, and it's what continually grows their brands. You know, ours in our case is mostly our parts business.
Yep.
The more views we get, the more parts we can sell, which is what pays us the lump sum of our money is through selling parts. So if a video does really bad, we're not getting as many views, we're not getting as many people that see that we sell parts, and it hurts both ends of the business.
Yeah, so we've been trying to focus on some of that because it hurts your ego sometimes, because sometimes I've thought this type of video will be really cool.
We've driven 18 hours across the country for a really cool video, and it does terrible.
Yeah, for documentary video. Fuckers got scammed. Not scammed, it just didn't work out as good as we had hoped.
But we were like, this is going to... Part of the problem is that the Packard video that we did so insanely well that we were like,
documentary type videos.
We're going to kill it on these, and then we've never had one. Our most viewed video is recycled footage.
Yep.
The 39, but we've also evolution. The time lapse videos we've found have done insanely well.
Yes.
And it's literally just me sitting down and recycling old footage to make a short condensed video of an entire build. And it's just, who would have thought that just reusing old footage to make a new video?
Well, I was working at Eastwood at the time when we started doing those, and I saw that there was some channel, because I handled the sponsorships and finding YouTube channels to sponsor. That was part of my job. So I was always looking at new channels and different ones, and I found like I guess it was, I don't want to say it was it wasn't a drift channel. It was there was a company out in California that was like building a car, and then they would raffle it off with tickets.
Okay. Yeah.
I forget what the name of it is, and they were doing mostly Japanese type cars. But they were doing these time-lapse videos at the end of the build to help promote, buy a ticket, you can win this car. And I was looking at all their videos, and they're like, million views, 2.1 million views. They were like, every one they were doing like one or two cars a year. They were getting like, the time-lapse was getting like millions of views. And I'm like, we can do a time-lapse. So we build, and we do way more to a car than those guys were doing to a car.
They're just bolting parts on.
For the most part, I mean, they were building intercooler kits and doing stuff, but like they weren't like cutting a car in quarters and welding it back together.
Yeah, exactly.
So we started doing those, and some of the early ones didn't do well, and Mike's kind of like, well, this is a lot of work for no views.
The first one did really well. It was on the free T.
Yeah.
That one did well, and then like the next two were kind of like, nah. And then the 39 video, it's at what we talked last night. It's like 5.6 million.
Yeah, it's creeping up on 6 million views. So that gets into now that we're getting enough views, it starts creeping up into that does change our decision. We're not as crazy as some of these other YouTube channels where they will flip a switch and a car will disappear off the channel, overnight. They'll do 4 videos on it and the car's never
4. They do like 2.
Yeah, 2. And like for us, it's also a personal, like, I like these cars. I'm not just using them as a prop for a video like some channels. So like sometimes we'll just keep doing videos on a car just because.
And it also does we notice a video's doing well, a car is popular, we'll shoot more builds on it.
The 39 Forgotten Hot Rod. I did not like that car. I'll put that out there. From day one, did not like that car. Not really a fan of those cars. I was kind of like, I guess when you do them kind of right, they're kind of cool. At least it's not 4-door. But like originally, I was going to just flip. We were going to pull all those cars out of the junkyard. I was going to part out all the other junk ones. And I was going to sell that one basically as is. We were just going to clean it up, sell it. And if I made $500, we were going to keep moving. And then we did a couple of videos on it, and it did like phenomenal. And I'm like, same with the Mercury. We drug the Merc out.
That was our best viewed video until we did the time lapse on the 39.
Yeah. So like that car, I was like, maybe I'd really like a 3940 Merc and, whatever. But like, I wasn't that in love with it.
No.
So the 39 Forgotten Hot Rod started taking off, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess we better start building it because everybody likes it. And it was like, the whole time I'm kind of like, not really that exciting. I'm putting all this labor into like something I don't really like. But it came around pretty cool.
Yeah.
And you couldn't deny that everybody loved the car. And I think it's because it was an affordable car that, those cars are still fairly affordable that you can buy for not a lot of money and people could relate way more to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool seeing something literally get pulled out of a junkyard and get put on the road.
Yes.
So like that car was a good example of we were watching the numbers and I was kind of like forcing my hand like, okay, well, we need to complete this car because we're telling the story.
Yep.
And that was why we got a lot of questions along the way. Well, why didn't you paint it? Why didn't you do the interior at first? Why didn't you do it? Because I was kind of like, I want to spend as little money as possible.
Yep.
And then eventually, as it got better, I'm like, you know what? We probably should do the interior because now it's like, it's driving, it's decent. We did everything else.
And if we want to sell it, which was the end goal at the end, the picnic tablecloth seat covers did not do anything for resale value at all.
No, it did not. So we did all that up, and then we ended up selling it. But like Mike and I were talking last night, we've made more money on the YouTube video than we sold the car for. So like that's a good. Now it's taken a while. The car's been sold for a while, but like that's a good example of we probably sold the car for what some people viewed as too cheap or very affordable. But I wasn't mad because if you add up the time-lapse video and all the content we shot on the video, and then you add that into what we got for the car, it's like we actually did pretty well on the car.
Very well, yeah.
So I'm not angry if we can dance, and that's the part I was describing to a customer last night with the wagon. It's like we're seeing a lot of interest on social media, and I think it's neat, and I could be swayed either way. I'm very easy to sway to keep a car because I have hoarder.
Hot, he's like a faucet. Very hot, very cold, very quickly.
Yes, and I could sell the car in 30 minutes. I could change my mind. But now that we're seeing that there's a lot of interest, I've always thought that the forward look Mopar stuff in that era of late 50s to very early 60s Mopar stuff is pretty cool. It's real space agey. So that car, I'm kind of like, well, maybe we should try and shoot some stuff on it and get some people. It might find some new people to come to our channel. And we found over the years that there's people that find our videos because the Packard video is a good example.
Yep.
It got a lot of just general card people interested in our channel, and they still follow to this day. And now they're kind of like, you know what? Early Fords are kind of cool. And we've had people that were like, I found you guys from the Packard video, and they're now still following us, and they're like, you know what, I think I want to build a Model A. 8 years later, they're like, maybe I should build one of them. I've been watching you guys forever. So that's like our, eventually it gets them into our funnel where they're buying the parts from us, or they're maybe buying a project car or whatever.
Or just even merch.
Yeah.
I mean, it all helps. And just trying all these different avenues is getting more eyes on the channel. The big red truck. We did diesel content, quote unquote, and it helped get some more eyes on the channel.
That's a good point, because we never went back and reviewed that. I kind of just forcefully said, I want to put a Cummins in this truck, and we're going to show it. Now, we didn't detail the swap as in depth as maybe we should have, because we've had people email us, well, how'd you do the engine mounts and do this and that? But the idea was, let's do a video on a 60s big truck, because I wanted one, and I wanted to do a diesel swap on it, and we did it. But we didn't turn our channel into a diesel channel, and I think that's why it didn't hurt our views a ton, because we did it and kind of, just used it. So the wagon is probably the same kind of idea. We're toying with the idea of doing a modern muscle engine, maybe a new Hemi or something in it, and make it a cool cruiser, parts runner, lender car. If somebody's in town and they want to borrow the wagon to drive, we want to drive to the airport to pick up some friends because they're coming in town for Hershey. We can jump in that wagon and go to Philly, and it doesn't matter.
And they could fit all of their luggage in it, and then some.
We could fit a small family and luggage in the back of the car and still do 80 miles an hour down the highway. So, like, it's kind of cool. So we'll probably document the build, but we're not going to turn into a Mopar channel. I'm not looking to get into the Mopar parts business. It's a fun thing. It's okay to like other cars.
No, it's not. Of people, hot rods, early Fords only.
Yeah, we get that at shows a lot. People, same with they make these statements like, oh, you don't like shiny cars. Oh, you don't like, a guy will walk up to us to show me his car, and I'll be like, oh, well, you're probably not too interested in this, but I have a 32 Chevy that I built into a hot rod. I'm like, it doesn't. I like those cars. It just
we are the least the people you should be worried about. We both came from very different. Matt was into German cars. I was into imports, the Hondas and Japanese cars. So it's like we are the most understanding that anything can be cool. It doesn't have to fit this little narrow. We don't have blinders onto the car hobby.
No.
I still look at import stuff and I'm like, oh, that's cool. It's. The car hobby isn't one size. You have to wear one shirt. You can. It's so crazy.
I just think over the years, the whole like, I'm Ford blood, I'm Chevy blood, and like these fucking nerds that have old, and it's a lot of these old hillbilly type guys that are like Chevy blood runs through Chevy country and Fords are, and it's just like this weird. I don't know. It's just weird. It's like they're fighting about politicians. It's just terrible. And it's like, I like everything. I think if it's cool, it's a cool car. It doesn't matter. So that's where that wagon came. It's like we stumbled into it. You can't deny that it's cool. It's got a Jetsons vibe to it. It's neat. And you don't need to do a lot to those cars to make them cool. And the big thing is the drivetrain. If that engine was like really good and we cleaned it up and just ran it and drove it, maybe I'd keep it in there. But if we could somehow put a little bit better of an engine and make it more usable, I'm not as romantic about old school engines once you get into 50s and 60s cars. I'm not as romantic about it as I am the traditional hot rodding thing, because that's what doing old school customs and nostalgia hot rodding and customizing is. You're doing it the way that a guy would have done it at the time, because I want a car. Like, I don't need to pick some random like orphan engine Mopar. I'm not saying it always have to be orphan engine, but there's no denying that's not a Hemi.
Yeah, it's an oddball.
It's an oddball, and like picking that engine and forcefully using it, it doesn't have much nostalgia sake. I'm not a diehard Mopar guy, so doing a modern swap in it,
and it's a car with a hood.
Yeah,
so it's like. You never open it to
yeah.
show. I mean, if someone asks, but it's like you're going to a car show with a 32 Roadster with no hood on it, so for everyone to see, it looks cool at the car show. I mean, you don't have to pop the hood at all.
So, and it's picking what you want to do with the cars. So, like a car like that, I want to just get where I'm going. I want it to drive like a normal car, whereas I'm driving a 30s car because I want it to feel like 1948.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm not going to do 100 miles an hour on the highway with it.
You're going to smell. It's going to steer hard.
Yeah, you're going to stink. It's going to ride like shit. It's going to be awesome. It's probably going to be a headache because it's going to, you're going to have to fiddle with it a lot. But that's why we have these vehicles. So there's nothing wrong with having a 50s vehicle or 60s vehicle that is your cruiser, and you can get in and go. And that day you want to go to the car show when it's 100 degrees outside, and I don't want to drive a Roadster because I'm going to bake and it's annoying. So I'm going to drive the one that has a modern engine swap and maybe has a vintage air kit in it. And that gets into the street. Like, we don't have a problem with street rods.
That's why dudes build street rods, because
Yes.
they don't want to sweat. They want to listen to music, and they want it to be comfortable and easy to drive,
Yes.
which I'm all for.
I just prefer, for me, I want to have a 50s or 60s car at that point because I want it to
Exactly.
also like ride nice and do all
Yeah.
that. So that's where we're in the future. I think with the channel, you may see where we're going to do a little bit more of that kind of stuff. It's kind of also to funnel in some different people. We're not going to flip the switch, but with us doing the great thing with us doing 3 videos a week forever is if it's only 1 video out of 3 for the week. Even if you're diehard how-to content on early Fords, you're still going to see that because I have a freaking building full of them. I'm super into them. I'm not going to stop doing that content.
No, not
it's just,
at all.
We might do 1 video a week where we show.
Similar to the podcast.
Yeah.
We're not going to just turn into a podcast channel, but people enjoy it, so we're going to start doing it. And
Yes.
not filming one every so often helps people get the podcast, but we're not just drowning the YouTube channel in podcast videos.
Yes. So that, I think and again, the telling the story is probably the biggest thing that we've evolved into. So that Plymouth, going back on that, there is a fantastic story. The families, the gentleman's mother bought it new off the showroom, and then she drove it, and then he drove it to college, or high school, college, and then we got the car for free because it was going to get scrapped. So like that, there's no better narrative of a car guy. It's like the dream, like one owner car, one family car, and then sat for many years, but was preserved well enough. And then we were given the car for free because he was going to get scrapped if we didn't take it because he had like a couple days to get it out. So,
And the rest of his family still lives in the area.
yes.
So, and I think his kids have never seen the car on the road. As long as they've been alive, it's always been in storage as like
close to it because it was because he said it was 1980 he parked it.
Yeah, and that's the storage that we got it out of since like 89 or 90. So
and
they
his
probably
daughter
she's around my age, around 90, 91 she was born.
Yeah, so that's
she's never seen it driving. So like
them seeing it roll out of the garage was a big thing for them. So
and we get the car done. Part of the end of the story is we invite them down to the shop to see the car. We take them for a ride, very much like we did with the Skelly car.
Yep.
Because they rode in the car, but they were babies. So
the
only
daughter had ridden in the car. The son had never
Yeah.
ridden in it. So that was a good.
They saw pictures, they heard all the stories about the car, and then for them to actually see it as an adult and get to ride in it is a very good ending to the story.
And it's cool for us. I think I've always done that. Like when I got my 52 Chevy years ago, I did the same thing. I didn't have a channel. I drove it down back to the dude's house where I dug it out of, and showed him the car. So like, kind of have always done that. I thought it
And
was,
we do that like some of the cars, we stay in touch with the families. We just send them a video of the car running outside, or a clip of the 38. You've sent the family a bunch of photos of you've done modifications and stuff to it.
And that's it's nice. People feel good about. I mean, we're very upfront when we buy parts or cars, contrary to popular belief, or the mystery haters that comment and say we're raping and pillaging families. They usually contact us because they know that our business is buying and selling.
Yep.
And this gentleman that gave us this stuff, he just said, I want to make sure it doesn't go to the scrapyard. I don't care what you do with the car or the parts, the engines, as long as I want to see most of them go into
Get used.
So even when we were standing there, I said, I don't know if we might pass the car on to somebody that's really into early forward look Mopar era or whatever. But I said, we're going to make sure that somebody gets it and it doesn't get like ruined. And I said, we may mess with it. I don't know. So it's not like some people give this sob story. I'm going to keep it forever. I've always wanted a 61 Plymouth wagon and feeding them the bullshit. I'm like,
We get fed that bullshit on parts.
Yeah,
Like when we sell signs and advertising and stuff.
sign guys are the worst.
They always feed us a
crooked.
line of shit, and then I belong to all the Facebook groups. So like a day later, I see it for sale on Facebook. I'm like, you didn't have to. Just give me an offer. You don't have to lie to me and give me a sob story. I don't care.
Right.
Just tell me you want to buy it. That's fine.
So I think, and a lot of these cars, I tell the families, like, you know, we tell them up front, like, hey, you know, they know we have a YouTube channel. We like putting them on the road, but we have a business, and we have to continually find more cars and parts and
Feed the machine.
Yeah. So the 38 convertible, it's like I bought that and told them I really wanted that car to build it, but I wasn't like I'm going to keep it for the rest of my life. I don't know what I'm doing with that car, but it may turn into a car I'll love and I will keep forever. But like they kind of knew the 38 or the 39 convertible sedan we pulled from that estate. We just said I want to pull it out and get it running and whatever. And then we passed it on to somebody. But like they knew that the fun for us was saving the car, getting it running, and getting it to move around the property or drive around the neighborhood.
And they were just happy to get one of the worst cars taken care of and moved out of the.
Yep.
That was the car they wanted to start with. So.
We were all surprised. I didn't think
Yes.
that car was going to run. So
No, when we pulled it out and the engine turned over, I would have bet a week's paycheck that engine was never going to turn
we need
over.
to start betting more.
I know because I already lost money.
I would have lost that one. I wouldn't have bet on that one either.
Yeah, there's no way.
So with these cars, that's one of the things. So it's like we want to let the family know that the car's doing well or it's, you know, progressing on, and all these different cars. I pretty much am still in contact with the people,
and we're in contact with a lot of the vehicles that we've passed along.
Yes,
It'd be wild in like 10 years to do like an IronTrap
reunion
and get all these cars that we found and passed along back together.
Oh my God, that would be cool.
Because there's so many projects too that we've sold that they may not be on the road yet, but they're working towards getting them going.
Yeah. So I think we're going to continue to do more of that. We're going to probably toy with, if we get a car that strikes us, a big part of our trouble is labor.
Time
and labor. Because Steve, of course, is helping us with a lot of the mechanical behind the scenes stuff, doing wiring, bleeding brakes, all the stuff that isn't sexy to do on camera and takes time. So finding some help, even if it's contractor type help, like our buddy Justin, does a lot of LS swaps and does mechanical work on modern cars. He's a good friend of ours. He lives a few miles down the road. He was over yesterday looking at the Plymouth, and we're brainstorming. He's like, "Oh, dude, Holly makes an engine harness for these. I never knew that." And he's like, "Oh, I just from him being around it, he knows." And he's like, "Oh man, I could probably help you with this swap. I've done tons of this kind of stuff." And he already kind of knows all the tricks of the trade for doing modern engine swaps. And we're like, well, maybe if I just pay him and the labor to do some of the grunt work, I can continue to work on the early Ford stuff that I like to do, and I'm not going sideways. So we could still put out content.
Yep.
We're not necessarily hiring another mechanic on full time, but we can pay him some labor, and that car gets done.
And we did the same thing with Big Red. He helped you pull the engine out and get all that stuff removed and taken care of.
Yeah.
For when Clint came with the engine, it was smooth sailing to put it in. And Steve was still working on something else in the background.
Yes.
Instead of everyone being distracted with the Big Red truck in the garage, we were getting multiple things done at the same time.
Yeah, and then Clint came up with the diesel engine
and did the same thing.
And we kind of had a game plan, and that's what we hope to do with this Plymouth. Like, I had all the parts ready ahead of time. Clint's like, you need this starter, you need this alternator, all these parts. So when he came, it was kind of like we just busted ass for 2 days on it, and we had a running.
It's almost like a normal production shop. You get everything done ahead of time, and it's just ready to go and rock and roll.
It's just not as easy with early hot rod stuff, because sometimes the parts you don't realize you need are not just like, I can't just go down the road and get a starter from AutoZone and whatever. So that's the good thing with some of this. If we get the parts ready, it's in our world, it's an easy swap, because nothing I do is nearly that easy. We're like, oh, we buy a flex plate and this harness and these couple things, and it'll just start. I'm like, oh, I gotta machine 18 different parts and custom figure out motor mounts and set the engine angle and all this stuff, where this thing, it's like they've already got it figured out with the motor mounts and all the kits. You're like, you just bolt it in, Even the diesel engine wasn't quite that easy, because I made my own mounts and we had to do all that. So this is that's, I think some of that stuff will be fun. We've already seen on our social media that like just posting on Instagram and TikTok and some of those places.
Oh yeah, follow us on TikTok if you don't. We are trying our best to be young teenagers and post on TikTok daily.
We're going to start doing some dances.
I told Steve if it comes to it, he's going to be our dance guy.
Yep, he's going to have to start practicing dances at night for his wife. That'd be hilarious. But no, we're trying to do a little bit of that stuff. But like we've noticed on that car, for whatever reason, we've gotten a bunch of new people following us that are into Mopar
stuff. We've had
stuff.
more people contact us to try and buy a vehicle than ever before.
Yeah,
and we've pulled out some great early Fords, and me get like 2 to 5 messages about buying it. I probably got like 30 DMs, comments, emails asking to buy that wagon. It's
phone
insane.
calls, text messages.
Yeah, it's
people I haven't talked to in 5 years or randomly text me like, "Hey, man,
what's up with that wagon?
What's going on with that wagon? What are you going to sell that for?" And I'm like, "Whoa." What?
They might do that though because that's so left field for us. They're like, "There's no way they're going to keep that thing."
It's a valid thought. So, but I think with the channel evolving, we're also trying to show the business side of things so that people can. It seems like with evolving the videos, people enjoy also watching someone grow a business from the ground up.
Yeah,
which
100%.
I've always been fascinated with. The podcasts that I listen to are really only business marketing oriented. That's the ones I've always listened to because I find it fascinating on some of these podcasts I've listened to of how the owner of Sheetz or you watch the documentary on McDonald's. Like I've always thought that's interesting how someone grew a business from an idea to some huge corporation. Not that we're trying to do that, but like it's interesting hearing the stories and you parallel them to what we're doing. You're like, oh, okay, there's a similar.
Yep.
There was a switch that flipped for them that they changed the trajectory of the business. So I think that side of it we've been documenting because people seem to find interest in that. And it's probably pretty cool with people. It has to be cool. We've gotten comments about it. People that have watched us since the first video and the shop's empty.
Yep.
And then we start getting some better tools.
In like the last 3 years even.
Yeah, and then suddenly it's an addition and then it's another building and the warehouse is full and we're, all that stuff. And that's literally just me pouring gas on the fire and us moving forward and working our asses off to get there. But I think people identify with that more because they can literally see it before their eyes, the work that we're putting in and what's coming out of it, and that we're still staying true to the hobby and what we're into and growing the business. So we're, I'm not looking to sell the IronTrap brand and then just go into something else, start open a fucking coffee shop.
Matt and I had a discussion the other day at one of our quote-unquote business meetings while we eat pizza at Argento's.
Yeah, eat pizza at the shop down the street.
So we were just talking about, you see a lot of these big, it's more like modern car media companies have been getting bought and they just get like disbanded and all the key figures from those channels and websites and blogs just go out and do their own thing.
Yep.
And we were discussing, what would you ever sell it if it came to it? And we're much more into not saying those dudes aren't into the hobby, but that was more of just a regular job for them that they enjoyed where we're building it ourselves.
Yeah. And I don't think,
and the dudes that built those companies were much more of just a media guy that was into cars than a car guy starting a business.
Yeah. Or they were an athlete, so to speak, or a racer, that started something and it grew and really they were a race car driver or they were a drifter and it grew and it wasn't like they went into it with this brand as their identity.
Yes.
You look at Hoonigan.
Yep. That's a prime example.
That wasn't where he was trying to make Hoonigan his brand. It just became that thing. And even for me, even after the Hoonigan got huge, I didn't only associate him with Hoonigan. It was more like he was a race car driver to me. And it was like Hoonigan was his side hustle thing because he wasn't in every video,
Well, I mean, after it got big, he had his own YouTube channel,
Yeah.
just focusing on what he was doing.
Correct. Yeah.
Not even just the Hoonigan brand. They had all these other cast of characters that were focused on that channel,
Yes.
and Ken would show up one in every 25 videos.
Yeah, so that I can understand that when a company comes to you and it's just like your side company and they offer to buy it for millions of dollars
Yeah.
or whatever, and you just sell your media company, it's fine. But like for us, it's been my identity since the forum days.
Yep.
So like I don't have any interest, even a little known fact, even when I first started the channel and I worked at Eastwood and our channel started to grow substantially, there was discussion between some of the bosses, like, do you want to sell the IronTrap to Eastwood, and you keep doing the channel, but you're under the Eastwood umbrella? And I said no, because I knew I was in corporate world long enough in big business. I knew that maybe not the first year or the second year, but after having that nitwit come in from QVC,
Yeah.
that's all it would have taken is hired some dude that used to work for ESPN, and he's a production manager. He comes in and changes everything,
Yep.
and now we're doing...
That's the best part of this channel. We have no one to report to, no one to tell us what to do. We kind of just do whatever we want.
So when Mike comes to me and says, I have this great idea about doing this type of video, I go, I don't give a shit.
Yeah. Nope.
Go back
not
and edit
doing
videos,
Yeah.
asshole.
Yeah. I think we should start doing it this way. Nope.
Nope.
Not doing
Sorry.
it.
Nope. Not at all.
I'll listen to you, but we're not doing it.
No, that doesn't really happen. But it's just, I'd rather keep it. And I don't think, I mean, we're so niche. I couldn't see a big brand. I mean, it's the same reason when production companies have talked to us about doing TV shows. It's like, we're so niche. I don't really want to go out, and I don't like, people have talked to us about like, oh man, if you could get Motor Trend to pick you up. I don't want to fucking be on the Motor Trend.
Not at all.
Watch Motor Trend. All the dudes that did cool shit there have jumped ship over the years, and they're doing their own thing. That tells you about big business. That's how it is. Those companies, big business, they usually F you over time.
Yep.
I've seen it happen in the corporate world many times over. It doesn't matter if you have 35 years in the company. New owner buys it, they'll shit can half
sorry
the
about your
company.
luck.
Yeah, over a course of a month, they'll shit can the whole company. So that could have been us, and it would have been a new...
I mean, how many the first 2 to 3 years, we had like 10, maybe. None of them like went very far. They started with an email.
maybe a sizzle reel or,
There was one that we shot some content for to try, and then it was just like they came back with some notes like, can you yell at each other more and like instigate some drama? It's like, it's such bullshit. No one, after like all those shows being out for so many years, American Choppers and
Yep.
all those like reality garage videos, no one watches that shit anymore.
No,
it doesn't appeal to anyone because everyone knows that's not what happens.
And it's funny because now those personalities, they're 10 years later, 15 years later,
Yeah.
they're still trying to fight that stigma of who they portrayed them as,
Yeah.
on these shows. So these guys are now on podcasts talking about, well, yeah, like we did have a disagreement, but they really blew it out of proportion or whatever. And it's like, it's all coming out where a lot of that stuff was kind of, production company was poking the bear to try and get something to happen or whatever. And like now these guys are fighting that stuff where it's like, I wasn't really like whatever, And so I think that's what would happen to us. I'm just not chasing the money like that. I'd rather keep doing what we're doing and having fun and do it in, our terms.
Well, it's also, you kind of look at how businesses work. The businesses that start and just skyrocket, they usually have a very short time at the top. When you build a brand over time and it's a slow, steady, gradual climb, it's not just a flash in the pan. They stick around for much longer.
Yep.
Whereas companies that just shoot out of nowhere, they usually disappear fairly quick.
Yeah.
Just because it's the real quick spotlight, and and famous people are like that too.
Yeah, and I think and if the business is something that's not a lasting, fidget spinners is your business, that was only cool for a little while, and then it drops off a bit. And
Yep.
People,
I still have stock in fidget spinners. I'm kind of mad about that.
Yeah. But then again, on the flip side, like the people that cashed in on that and hit it at the right time.
Oh, yeah.
They probably made so much money that they're millionaires now if you did it right. So it's like that. I kind of envy that a little bit. If I could have done a flash in the pan and cashed out and I could just do all this and not have to film and just live my life, that'd be cool too. But I'd get bored pretty quick.
Yeah,
I think so.
Definitely.
So I think the big thing with our evolution of the channel is now we're working in the story, and we have the parts inventory now. As far as early Fords go, we can build cars we can put cars together much easier, quicker, aside from the labor side of it, than a lot of people can. So the green Roadster that we've been working on is a good example. I didn't have to go hunting the earth for those gauges. I literally walked upstairs on a Monday and said, yeah, I'm going to use this gauge panel. And then an hour later, I'm hole sawing it and it's in. I didn't have to hunt down 34 Packard V12 gauges and then have them restored. I had restored ones on the shelf. So we're doing that with a lot of cars where we have pieces of cars sitting around, and it's like when we find the right 34 3-window or 34 Roadster, we have all the body panels associated that we can just put one together.
Or the right engine for a restored one.
Yeah. We got all that stuff. So a lot of that stuff that's the neat part of it, that people can see some of the cars get turned around pretty quickly.
Like the Roadster pickup. I mean, we started that in the wintertime, and it was a driving project in like 6 months.
Yeah, and we drove it for a little while, and a viewer wanted to have that car.
Oh yeah, that car sold for all the comments in every video. That car's been gone for over a year.
But it sold to the right guy, because he was gathering parts and in his brain building that same truck, and he hit us up and was like, you built everything I would have built, except I probably wouldn't have put an Auburn dash and a blown flathead. It would have been more simple. But we already did it all, so it was like above and beyond, and then he could do his little tweaks to make it his. And I love that, because a lot of it is I want to get these cars out of my system. So I wanted to build a jalopy, Dry Lakes looking kind of Roadster pickup, and I got it out of my system. And right now don't need to build another one, but maybe someday I'd like to build a full fendered 50s or 60s style Roadster pickup, much like the two we saw at Grand National. So like that's the fun for me, is getting that out of my system, because I really like building these cars. So showing the process, trying to build a car in a way that it's not so crazy one-off that no one would want to buy it. So that was the beauty of that truck. It was simple enough, raw enough, that most people, if you're looking for that type of truck, would have liked to buy it. But it was also a clean slate.
Yeah.
If he wanted to give it a beautiful black paint job, it would have just been a matter of doing some body work and painting it, or he could leave it raw like that. But we put all the pieces in place that everything was there. You just changed some things around and perfected it. So a lot of these vehicles that we're putting together, the Forgotten Hot Rod was the same way. Like, it drove down the road. Well, hell, they drove the thing further than I drove it in one shot.
Yeah.
So they proved that we put a car together that was reliable enough you could drive it. Sure, it didn't have the gear. When Freiberger asked to buy that car a year before he bought it, and I said no, believe it or not. A lot of people wouldn't believe that. I don't give a shit, in the end of the day, who's asking to buy a car. I want the right guy to buy the car. And he asked about buying the car, and I actually outright told him no, because he told me he wanted a driver to bomb around LA in and drive it to and from the Motor Trend or whatever they were called at that time, Source Interlink, whatever, hot rod, garage. He wanted to drive back and forth, and I'm like, look, this is not the car for you. It's got a gear ratio that it's topping out at 60 miles an hour. I've driven in LA. You're going to get run over. It's got a mechanical fan, with an original flathead radiator. I don't know if this is the car for you. I don't think it's, it wasn't that I was a jerk and I'm like, F you. I was just like, I don't think this is the right car for you. I'd hate to sell you the car.
And the only reason he knew about it is because he put up that he was looking for a 3940 coupe, and then everyone berated the fuck out of him with our car that he hit up Matt.
He's like, hey, man, you want to sell that car? Everybody tells me I should buy it.
He was looking for a coupe, too, and everyone sent him the two-door. It's just like...
Well, I think also he had put up a dollar amount that he wanted to spend, and he was quickly realizing that all the coupes were hard to find in the dollar range he wanted. So he was like, oh, well, maybe I can settle for a two-door sedan. And he hit me up. And then I think he ended up buying another one after I told him I wasn't interested
Yeah.
in selling it to, at that time. And then I put the auction up, and then he ended up buying it anyways. And literally my first conversation with him after he bought it, and he hit me up and said, so I ended up buying that car. I said, you're not going to fuck this thing up, are you?
Yeah.
Do dumb shit to, like, I should find the screenshot, because it wasn't me trying to, like, be a dick to him.
Yeah.
This is the same comment I would say to anyone if it was like,
Well, especially because
they have a bad reputation.
not a bad reputation, but roadkill can be a little out of control with some of their videos.
And that's why they're so popular and people watch
Yeah.
it. So not a bad thing. I was just like, you're not going to turn this into some like cut in half and make it drive backwards with a
weld
turbo.
two fronts of a 39
Yeah.
together.
Put a turbo LS into one side and a blown Hemi in the other
Yeah.
and see if it rips in half. I don't know. I was just like, man, he's going to like, they could. And David is building, he's, always, if you want to talk about a hot rod historian,
Yeah.
he's the dude. He's been around it forever, so he understands the world that we live in. So, like, after talking, he's like, no, I kind of like that this thing's Y-block powered. Like, it just fascinates me, and it's old school. And he's like, I get what it is. I don't know what we're going to do with the car. And then they ended up doing that roadkill thing. And, like, a lot of people were, like, congratulating me when he bought the car. Like, we did some media deal to get featured on Roadkill. It was 100%. He bought it on eBay. I didn't know he bought it.
He didn't even know he bought it at first. He just put his max bid of what he wanted to pay for the car.
And he thought it was a low ball.
6 days before the auction ended, and he ended up being the highest bidder by dumb luck.
Yeah, so I didn't do a media deal, and people were like high-fiving and like, and honestly, to be real, he actually asked the story here, and Tony Angelo lives like not far from me.
Yes.
And his garage is pretty close, and he used to rent from one of my buddies, and so like I know Tony, and he was kind of like, well, Tony lives near you. Can I leave it at your place, and then I'll have Tony grab it, and then we'll start the episode, whatever we do here. And like, yes, it would have been a great thing for our channel, but I treated him just like anybody else. I said, I don't want to store your car for a year. I don't want the liability.
Yeah.
If something happens to your car. And I said, the reason I'm selling this car isn't because I needed the $16,000 or whatever.
Need the space.
I needed the space. And I'm like, dude, I just want the car gone because I have too many cars, which I'm sure he can relate to.
Yes.
And it went. So it was like super cool. But again, we built that car to be good enough that it was reliable and you could drive it and it wasn't super sketchy to drive.
The only thing that failed on that car was a brand new part that we bought at the parts store. Yeah.
Yes, it was a voltage.
They did what, like 750 or 800 miles in the car?
Something like that. I don't remember, but it was the voltage regulator, I think, is what failed.
Yeah.
And then Freiberger calls me and goes, so we just pulled into the hotel. We just did 500 miles or whatever it was. And I was like, oh, cool. So it's doing all right. He's like, well, when we pulled in, the generator was on fire. And I'm like, oh, I'm like, dude, all that stuff was brand new. Like, we just literally got it from the parts store. He's like, because he thought it was going to be some weird, obscure, hard to find
30s voltage regulator.
Yeah, and I was like, no, dude, it's literally like 60s F100 parts. I get them in Napa all the time, and they're like usually in stock or the next day.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, really? And I was like, just go get a generator and a voltage regulator. You'll have it. And he was, they were back on the road, whatever, very quickly. So but that was really cool because that was a good car. And then he sold it to one of their viewers, and that gentleman can do whatever he wants with it.
Yep.
It's a clean slate, or he can leave it as it is. So if we could keep putting cars together and saving cars, that's the fun part. If I could save cars, and Wheels of Time, we saw, our buddy Jerry that bought the 34 3-window.
Yep.
He had that at Wheels of Time, and that's one of the 34s we saved from Michigan, and he's driving it. And as jealous as I am that he has that car, I also didn't have to build it, so I get to see the car, and you're like, that's super cool. That thing's on the road. It's just satisfying. So I think that's the goal overall, is continue to tell the stories, prove that the stuff's out there.
Yep.
We go all over the country, so for all the comments to say, I wish we could find stuff like that in my part of the country.
It's in your backyard. You're just not looking hard enough.
Got to meet the right guy or knock on the right door, and the stuff's out there. So that's what we're trying to show. But I think future stuff is just continuing to tell the story.
Yep.
I've noticed a lot with our videos. We've leaned into it, but we haven't had a good way to storytell it. Young people.
Yep.
So we had Andrew for a while, and Andrew was a fantastic young person that was learning, and people were watching him kind of get skills and get into the channel more. And then he went off to do his own thing, and we saw him at Wheels of Time. He's working as a CNC machinist.
Yep.
Super satisfying to me, because one comment he made to me while we were at Wheels of Time, I almost had a little tear because I felt like I was like a father figure. Is, almost every single thing that you taught me when I was like 14, 15 years old, I still use every day at the machine shop. He's like, just those basic skills. And I was like, dude, that's pretty cool. Like,
yeah.
So like, if we can continue, my nephew's been coming around.
Yep.
My nephew is interested in, he's been doing this stuff forever. That doesn't mean he's going to be a part of our channel. He started his own little YouTube channel. He's 13, but he started his own little channel.
I'll put a link. If you made it this far in the episode, there's a link in the description of the podcast episode. I'll put Evan's channel there.
I forget what he called it, but he couldn't think of a name, so I just like randomly, we were texting, and I was like, Evan does cool stuff or whatever it is. I don't remember. And he was like, that's good. I like that. And he used it. So like, but he, just showing that young, even if we just show them on our channel, Ryan was our summer help, just showing that there's younger people, because we are trying to fight this negative mindset of all the old guys and nobody's getting into this stuff. The hobby's doomed. We've talked about it in another podcast. The more we could show young people on our channel, even if they're only on for 2 episodes, they're out there. It's just, it may be your little, when you go to the diner at Tuesday morning at 6 a.m., there's not going to be a 16-year-old kid driving a hot rod because he's in fucking school.
Yes.
So they're around. It's just, we're trying to show. So I'd love to someday, if we get the right young person, that we can show them progress over the years, and whether they stay for a year or like Andrew, he stayed for a while and he progressed. Like,
we're gonna force Nate into that position
if he's interested. It'd be cool to show that that's the part of it that if we can keep him, show young people. We had Luke here that was doing some filming, and people saw him helping a little in the background. And like, now he's in college doing the film thing, and so if we can keep showing that, that's one thing I'd like to start showing. I'd love to get a younger person that likes doing the hands-on stuff like I do, that we can maybe kind of
for sure
show throughout the years. And the hard part that we have is a lot of young people have trouble with the old school mentality of you need to put your time in and get paid $0 or little money, and you're just learning. You're trading education for your labor.
Yes.
And I'm steadfast to that. I'm not hiring some kid that has no skills and I'm paying him the same as Home Depot just because he's a warm body. You got to come here and learn everything the hard way, the same way I learned it and people before us. So if we could get some young person like Andrew was doing, where you just come around and you can help, and we could document that, it would be super cool to show that stuff, and maybe someday them building a car or whatever. But that's the only other thing I could see in the future, us progressing if we can. Evolving the channel into showing not me building my own cars, but us building. And that's where we've shown your car.
Spencer car. We get a ton of messages about that thing still.
Yeah. So like some of those are I'm just helping one of our friends get to our friend George, help him do a little bit of work. We only show Jason with his pickup. We showed Jason. I helped Jason get jump start on his project. He started his own channel.
I'll put a link to that below too. We're just giving shout outs to all these channels.
Yeah. They're all people that are just doing it for fun right now. But they're building. Just get them a jump start to get their project moving. My buddy Nick has been brainstorming a project. I went and picked up a Roadster pickup for him in the big red truck, and I might help him get started on his project, and then I can hand it off, and he can do the finish work to get it on the road. So I think that stuff's important, because that's a big part of this hobby. Also, is helping out friends.
100%.
So we're gonna get Justin a project and get him moving too. So that's in turn for helping us do some
casting the line to set the hook.
Yeah, getting like Justin is big on the the modern engine in old car thing or in vehicles. It's like if we can help him get a nostalgia hot rod, which he wants, but help him speed up the process, because that's what we do a lot of. That'll be great, and then he can be driving around having fun. So that's the goal. But that's kind of been the evolution for what we have planned beyond and here, and that's why people are confused when we do left field stuff. We're just trying new things out and seeing if people have interest, and then
get new eyes on the stuff.
Yeah, we can keep moving. So that's all we have for this this little.
Yeah, thanks for listening to our first audio-only podcast.
Yeah.
If you enjoy this, let us know. Send us a message on social media and email.
Leave a review.
Yeah, we'll start doing more of these because these are super simple for us to just talk and ramble on about hot rod stuff. It's what we do all the time, basically.
All the time. We're just recording it now instead of us. This is a snapshot into what Mike and I do when we're driving from across the country in a box truck.
Yeah, I wish there was good audio in a box truck. We could do an on-the-road podcast, but all you would hear is wind noise and road noise and stuff banging.
Yeah, there is a lot of banging around of parts in the back of the truck. So,
we should try one time just for fun, just to see how it goes.
It gets so many bad reviews.
Yeah,
Your audio is terrible.
Us screaming at people as we're driving.
Yeah, but that's all we got for this one. Thank you guys for following along and listening. And like I said, make sure you subscribe. And if you find somebody you think might enjoy this podcast,
share it around.
And we'll keep doing them. Thanks, guys. Catch you later.